Okay.
Yeah, so Rabbi Stein, looks like I'm not making it to the shear or the minion.
So I hear.
Yep. I'm
All
on.
right, it makes sense. Makes sense.
No, it 100% makes sense.
Well, you finally got it,
Modified
Jesse?
quarantine.
Jesse, you finally got it?
No, my daughter has it, but I have modified quarantine, which means my wife and I can still go to work, but no one can go anywhere other than that.
But Jesse, now you see the difference between Jews and non-Jews. Jews are all considered essential.
Oh, starke Sache.
Yeah. Now you feel like everybody else.
Okay, who's going to make a magnet for the back of the cars that says Essential Yid?
I'm sure it's coming from
Thank you,
China.
Hashem
I'm sure it's
magnet.
coming from China any day.
To give to divorce. The next, thank you, Hashem. Thank you, Hashem, Essential Yid driving. I could see that.
Yeah. Okay, let's go. Yeah. So yesterday we were discussing. Today's a continuation of it. The Gemara was going through. We pasken like Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, right? That something hefker does get an eruv, and halachas like the mekel by eruv. And then why do we need both halachas? That was basically the whole shak of the Torah, the Gemara. And then we had a whole thing. It's do we say the halachas like the mekel by a derabanan or not? Right? Do we care about a das yachid by derabanan? Are we more united to be mekel even like a das yachid by derabanan? And then we said the difference between eruv chatzeres and eruv techum, and then we had different opinions of rules of psak, who we pasken like, who we don't pasken like. And then we asked kashas because we said when there's a machlokes Reb Yehuda and Reb Shimon, we always pasken like Reb Shimon. And then here we say, I'm sorry, like Reb Yehuda. Right? And then we say here, we're going to bring down a few examples of where we pasken like Reb Yehuda, right? Am I mixing it up? Am I mixing it up? What is it? No, I went back the wrong daf. No, right. So we said the halacha is always like Rabbi Yehuda, and then we brought a few examples about the halacha being like Reb Shimon. So that's what we're up to on the top of Mem Zayin Amud Aleph. We're in the middle of different rayas from different gemaras all over Shas, where we're paskening like Reb Shimon over Reb Yehuda. So, Elam Ahad 4 lines down. And then today's daf, what are we going to say? We're going to bring a bunch more rayas all the way throughout the whole Amud of rayas that we pasken like Reb Shimon and not. And then on Amud Beis, then we get back to Chefze Shel Hefker, and then if a guy's things get an eruv techum or not, right? Meaning if a guy has his own stuff, do a guy's belongings only go within 2,000 amos or not? Okay, so that's basically the game plan. So 4 lines down. Elam Ehad Tanan. Yeah, Haminiach is Beisai v'halach lishbais be'ir acheres. Somebody who left his house and he went for Shabbos to another city, right? Fairly common occurrence nowadays. Echad Nachri ve'echad Yisrael. Whether it's a guy or whether it's Yisrael, he's going to answer the people that he lived by. Meaning a guy left town on a Thursday for Shabbos. Now they're trying to make an Eruv Chatzeres, but this guy left town, right? So what are they going to do? Can they include this guy in the Eruv or not? So
why does he need to be included? Why does he need to be included if he's not there?
No, because he owns a house. His house. He still owns a house. Right? He still owns the house there. So somebody has to have some sort of bias on the house. Oh, I meant to
make it like a carfif, no?
What?
Nobody uses it. Nobody walks by. Make it a carfif. There's nobody. It's uninhabitable.
I don't know if he can make it a carfif. Maybe he can make it hefker.
Well, I don't think he wants to do that.
Yeah, but that's what we do if you forget to do a eruv, no? He could also, I don't know what happened to Zachin Ladam, right? If he's Zaycha for him. Right?
It's not his chiyuv for him. He's not there. He's in Muncie. His house is in Far Rockaway. He's not his
no, right. But the people,
what's is that, Yaakov?
What's his chus?
What's the loss? What's the loss?
Well, that's his chus. He just said
the island is going to be nana, like giving a kiddush. No?
I'm saying there's no loss. So if there's no loss, then it's a schus, like we said yesterday. But Oh, so yeah, I just forgot, David, your question, right? You posted the question about why you water from your sinks is not from out of the techum, right?
Yeah. Well, is it? Yeah.
Right. So I'm saying based on yesterday's Gemara, maybe it is, right? That was what your kasha was on. So I think the reason why it's not is because the water is always moving. So we said once it's not moving, once it's moving, and the water is constantly moving, so therefore it's never kind of shvisa. So therefore it can't acquire any place. So therefore,
what about if you're getting water from a reservoir?
Reservoir is also moving. Well, we're going to see that a little bit. We're going to see that. Well, no, did we see that already? I think we'll get to it on Amud Beis. I think so. If not, then water that's not. I mean, all water is always moving. But if it's in a pond or something, that's not considered moving. But if the water is moving out, then it is considered moving. Right? Okay, whatever it is. Let's just see. So, anyways, Reb Meir holds taka. Even though you're not there, your house could aser people's property. Your house can aser people's eruv, even if you're not there. Rabbi Yehuda says like the Olam of here, saying that he doesn't aser because he's not home. If he's not home, he can't aser. Right? Rabbi Yossi, Aimer Nachri Aser Yisrael Eino Aser. He says a goy asers, a yid does not aser. Ain't derech Yisrael love b'Shabbos. Why? Because it seems like Reb Meir's reason is the concern is that maybe the yid's going to come on Shabbos. Right? He's going to come back home, so he has to be part of eruv. So he's saying a yid doesn't come on Shabbos. A goy could potentially come on Shabbos, right? He has no any issurim for travel, so he may come on Shabbos. So therefore, he could aser. Shimon Omer afilu v'niachas beisav alav lishbais etzel bitoy b'asir einoi oiser. Even if he leaves his house and he only goes to his daughter's house in that city, he doesn't aser shekvar asiach daitoy because he's masiach das. Right, but it's very interesting because we're gonna we're gonna see this later in the Gemara here. Why Dafka his daughter? Right. What about to his son? No, he might get into a fight with his daughter-in-law, and he's gonna get thrown out of the house. He's gonna go home. I mean, you can't even make it up. But that's what the Gemara is saying. He might get into a fight with his daughter-in-law, and so that's what the Gemara Dafka says. His daughter. Right?
These issues have been going on forever.
Yes, that is exactly right. It's exactly right. But it's interesting that it doesn't say the mother-in-law is going to get a fight with the daughter-in-law. It says the father-in-law is going to get in a fight. Okay, we'll see this weiter. It's later on in the stuff. What? Can't hear you. But right, you're saying, but you're talking about in Yavamas, the Gemara in Yavamas, that a mother-in-law and daughter-in-law hate each other. Yeah, that's true. So. Yeah, it's interesting that the Gemara doesn't say that here, unless that's what it means, that the wife is going to fight with the daughter-in-law, not the father-in-law fighting with the daughter-in-law. I don't know. We'll have to see it weiter it's not our sugya here. It'll be a sugya in 40 block. It won't be during Yom Naraim either, so we could have more fun with it in 40 block. Yeah. So he says Allah was like Reb Shimon. Uman polygale. Who's polygam Reb Shimon? Reb Yossi. Reb Yehuda Reb Shimon. I'm sorry, Reb Yehuda. But man polygale Reb Yehuda. Right? Who disagrees with him is Reb Yehuda, even though there's a Reb Yossi here too. Right? Reb Yehuda Reb Shimon. Reb Yehuda. So why are you passing like Reb Shimon? Umay kusha duma hachanami. Hechad itmar itmar. Hechad delay itmar lo itmar. Same thing. Same teretz like we said. The default is that Allah is like Reb Yehuda. But if we learn that Allah is like Reb Shimon, Allah is like Reb Shimon. Okay, so we have it. Now we're going on to a different case. This is what we said, that an ani can make an eruv with his feet, meaning an ani who doesn't have enough money to leave peanut butter 2,000 amas away. So we allow him to just walk there when Shabbos starts. That makes it his place, and then he can walk back home. Right? Only an ani can do that, but somebody who has money can afford it has to put food there. It's an ani or an issur can both walk there. The only reason why we said you make an eruv with bread is so that the rich guy can take it easy. But really, everybody holds that you can. The walking there works for everybody. Okay, we'll see that machlokes weiter also. But it's an interesting machlokes. Well, that's already next week. This machlokes. Whatever it is, right? Echad ani ve'echad issur. And he said the same thing, whether it's an ani, whether it's an Amali Rav, Sayim Bonami Halacha Rabbi Yehuda. Rav also, Sayim Bonami, he also weighed a seat, meaning he concluded that the halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda. So Tarti Lamali, what do you need? We just said two things that we pass on like Rabbi Yehuda. Amrit, Ramei Rabbi Yehuda, halacha Rabbi Yehuda. We know that anytime there's a machlok is Ramei Rabbi Yehuda, halacha like Rabbi Yehuda. So Gemara answers, "Amai kusha dilma Rav lesli lani klali." No, Rav maybe doesn't hold of this rule that when there's a machlokes Rabbi Yehuda and Rameir that we pasken like Rabbi Yehuda. So therefore, he had to tell you why we pasken like Rabbi Yehuda, or not why we pasken, but that we do pasken like Rabbi Yehuda. Fine, okay. So that's another saying. Again, they're all the same questions and answers for this, for the most part. Elam Hayavama. Right. So this is called havchana, the yemei havchana. When somebody gets divorced, or a woman gets divorced, the man we don't care about, he can get remarried right away. But a woman gets divorced, or she becomes an almana, so then she can't get married for 3 months, because if she doesn't, then we have no idea who the father is. Because how do you know whether the baby could be born on the 7th month, and it could be from the first husband, or it could be in the 9th month, and it's from the second husband, so we don't know. So therefore, the basic din, we're going to have a machlokes about it, but the basic din is you wait 3 months. And then after 3 months, we see she's not pregnant, then she can get married. And all other women, not only chalitza and yibum, other women also, they shouldn't get married, they shouldn't even get engaged until they get 3 months. Right? It doesn't make a difference if it's a basula, meaning she never consummated her marriage, right? And Ba'ula is they did consummate the marriage, Almanas, Grushas, are engaged or married. If they were married, then they can get engaged, right? Because when they get engaged, they're not going to be with the husbands anyways. Back then, their engagements were for a year. Barusa is Yanasu, if they were just engaged, right? So that means they weren't together with the man, so then they can get married without waiting 3 months. But except for a girl that was engaged in Yehuda, then in Yehuda they let the chassan and kala be together alone. So therefore we're chaysh that the chassan and kala messed around. So therefore in Yehuda that heta doesn't apply. Okay, so Rabbi Yehuda makes exclusions to this case.
Yehuda wasn't. I'm saying Yehuda wasn't so from there.
That's what it seems like. Yeah, that's what it seems like. Yehuda wasn't so from. Yeah. Rabbi Yossi Omer. Everybody can get engaged, just engaged, right? Because they're not going to be together anyways, except for an almana because of the avelus, right? Having nothing to do for 30 days for avelus. Rabbi Lazar did not go up to the Bismerish, right? Maybe it was a corona situation. I don't know. So he found Rabbi Yossi who went to the Bismerish. Must have antibodies, right? Amarle, my Amar Rabbi Joshua, what they say in the Bismerish. Amarle, Hachi Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Halacha Rabbi Yossi. Halacha is like Rabbi Yossi, right? Michlal, so must be the Yechidah Palagale. It must be who argued with him, right? He said the Halacha is like Rabbi Yossi, so who argued? It must be a Yachid, right? Because if it would have been a Rabbim, then they wouldn't pass like him. And we say yes. But Tanya, we have a brisa. Haresha is a redufa. Right, so you have a woman who always ran to her father's house, and meaning she ran away from her husband. Yeah, you think this is also a case where they have this back then too. She went away from her husband to her father's house. So obviously they couldn't be together, so there's no chashash there was a pregnancy. Aisha is a lakas and baila, or she had anger with her husband, right? Aisha ya baila zakin achayla, or her husband was a zakin. He was too old to have children. Or he was sick, or she was sick. She knew she couldn't have kids. She was old. She was too young. She was an islandess. Also, somebody couldn't have or somebody who couldn't give birth, right? Which means, a lot of these seem to be double, like exactly what the difference is between an islandess, somebody who can't give birth, and akara, right? So akara means it seems like she just doesn't have the and akara, I think, is shot that she just can't have a baby. I think she made it herself, like Kaishal Ikrin, like we discussed. She took something that caused her not to. Either way, or her husband's in jail. So then, or if we know she had a miscarriage after her husband died, Rameir is a light plug. You don't have to. You have to wait 3 months. Rabbi Yossi mater, liyaris v'le'inasa miyad. And Rabbi Yossi holds you can marry right away. By the way, I only had this. We had this once. There was a Nebuch, one of the young guys in town, was nifter with, and his wife was nursing. Now, no, officially nursing in the old days, you didn't get pregnant when you were nursing. So nursing women have to wait really till after the baby's 2 in order to date. And it was a whole issue because maybe the Metzias changed because we know that women can have kids. From what I remember correctly, Five O'Clock was Machmer, did not let her date till after 2 years, till the baby was 2 years old. Whatever it is, so it's a machlokes. So it's a machlokes Rabbi Yossi and Rameir. So you see, it's a yachid against a yachid. It's a lamali, Bahamar Rameir, Rabbi Yossi, Allah Rabbi Yossi. Why'd you have to say that Allah is like Rabbi Yossi? We know the rule is when it's a machlokes Rameir, Rabbi Yossi, Allah is like Rabbi Yossi. So Gemara says, "Well, my kosher, what's the kasha? Dilma lafuk meider Rav Nachman Mashmuel. Dilma lafuk Rameir b'zeiros." So maybe the whole thing he was coming to exclude was Rav Nachman Mashmuel's opinion, which was that Allah is like Rameir whenever you make gezeiros.
These rules are only in Gemara or after Gemara also?
What do you mean?
What I mean, I don't want to. It's Erev Shabbos, so I shouldn't really ask it. But I just want. So how does Rav Moshe argue with the Ramah, who lived 350 years before him?
Right. Yeah, that's
because nobody wrote down a rule that a machlokes Rav Moshe and you pasken like the Ramah. Nobody thought to write that down because it didn't exist.
Right. No, there is no rule. We overrated that later dairis can't be chaylik. Rav Moshe writes it's very interesting. Look at Daf Dama Terigus Moshe. Rav Moshe writes, anybody who learns a sugya correctly and learns it karoi could pasken whichever way he wants. It could be neged everybody.
So that's a raya to me. How does the Gemara set these klolim up? Just
right.
Thing. How did the person learn this sugya? I mamish cannot.
Right. So meaning,
right. Understand this.
You're right. So the third party has to figure out what a pasken like. Right. So we're trying to make these rules.
If there's klolim, you don't have to figure it out. You just say, we look on the scorecard. Who's here? Who's the home team? Rabbi Yossi is the home team. We always pasken like Rabbi Yossi.
Right. Right.
We don't learn this sugya.
Well, we clearly don't do that. It's like every rule has its exceptions.
That's also a kasha, right? Because what's the point of having a rule that has its exceptions?
That's life.
I'm saying, but meaning if I'm sitting and looking at a sugya, this is the problem, right? And you're looking at a sugya. Let's say a guy has a shulchan aruch, right? A guy has a shulchan aruch. That's all he has, and his internet's down. He's got nothing. A shaila comes up. He looks in the shulchan aruch, right? How do you know who to pasken like, who not to pasken? How do you know that the rule is I pasken like you, except where we don't? So then how does that help me? Right? Okay. Anyways, another raya. You're allowed to go to how do you call it? Yerid? Not a bazaar.
A fair,
whatever. Like
it's a business fair.
Business fair. Like what do they call them now? Convention, not a convention. I guess it'd be convention. But man, behema, you can buy from goyim behemas, avadim, shvachas, batim, sadas, krumim. You can buy from them slaves, houses, fields, vineyards, and you could write and you can bring it up to their courts because it's like saving it from their hands. Right? Meaning even though you're going to their courts and you're gonna have you're acknowledging things, but lamaisa, you're able to get a house out of them or an eved and a shifcha, which an eved and a shifcha become frumer, right? When they have to keep some halachas. So therefore, you're allowed to do that, right? Meaning, if you don't go to court, how are you going to be able to prove that you owned it, right? They may rip you up and say, how do you know? And let's say he's a kohen, he can go to chutz la'aretz. Now they were guys around chutz la'aretz that it's tameh, so kohen really couldn't go to chutz la'aretz. But for this, we allowed a kohen go. And not only can a kohen go to chutz la'aretz, again, the chacham can do that because it's a derabbanon. That chutz la'aretz is tumah, so they can say when you're allowed to. But you can even go to Pesach Kfar. So Gemara immediately asks, Pesach Kfar sakadaitach tumah daraisi. You can't allow a daraisa, right? Ella but Pesach Pras. It's only talking about a Pesach Pras, which is a derabbanon, right? Pesach Pras is where a body was cloud. So it's only an issur d'Rabbanan because the pieces are much smaller. Fine. Not only that, metama lisa isha, a kohen could become tamei to chutz la'aretz in order to get married, to lilmod Torah, and to go to yeshiva. Amar Rav Yehuda amos habizman shein moitza lilmod. That's only if he has no yeshiva in Eretz Yisrael. Moitza lilmod. But if he does find a yeshiva, then lo yitama. Rav Yossi omer apizman shemoitza lilmod nami yitama. We can have a whole conversation about this for a half hour too. Rav Yossi disagrees. He says even if he has a yeshiva to go to Eretz Yisrael, he could still become tamei. Why? Lefi shein min hakol zoich adam lilmod. Not everybody's zoich to learn from everybody. Meaning, it's like shidduchim. Not every shidduch works between a rebbe and a talmud. Sometimes you got to go to a yeshiva, even if it's in Chutz La'aretz. It's better for you to go, so then you go, right? Yeah. So I mean, even though Rashi seems to pin it on the rebbeim, like some rebbeim are better than others, but okay. V'amar Rav Yossi, Ma'aseh b'Yosef HaKohen, Shalach etzel Rabbi l'Tzidon, Lilmod Torah. Yosef HaKohen went to his rebbe in Tzidon to learn Torah. V'amar Rav Yochanan, Halacha Rav Yossi. And Rabbi Yochanan said, "Allah is like Rabbi Yossi." Why? Why do we need you say? If you go with your rules say that any time is a machlokes Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda, then Allah is like Rabbi Yossi. So why do you need to pasken? Now we have a new rule. Maybe that's only in the Mishnayos where we pasken like Rabbi Yossi, but in Braisas, but in Braisas we don't necessarily pasken like him. Kamash Malon that we do, right? Ella hochi kamar. Yeah, so hani klali lav divrei hakol ninu the harav lesle hani klali. No, so what we're saying basically is all these rules are not according to everybody because Rav himself didn't hold of these rules. So therefore, basically, we don't know, right? We don't know. I mean, Rav disagrees with them, but others. So there are some that say the rules and some that don't say the rules. Okay, fine. Okay, now back to Eruvin. So Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel Cheftzei Nachri Ein Kohen and Shvisa. Rav Yehuda says, "Name Shmuel that objects of a guy, right, are not Kohen and Shvisa, and therefore they can go more than 2,000 amas. For example, right? Let's say me. So we discussed this, but let's just clarify it. I have somebody wants to borrow my talis on Shabbos, right? So he comes to my house Shabbos morning, wants to take my talis. He can only take that talis to where I'm allowed to walk with a techum. He can't go past that because it was kind of shvisa, right? What happens if they want to go buy fruit from a guy, or they have it on credit, or whatever it is? They want to take some food from a guy. Can you take that food past 2,000 amas? Meaning, obviously, a guy doesn't keep Shabbos, keep Yom Tov, but maybe his objects can't be brought further than 2,000 amas. So Yehuda Shmuel is saying is that they're not kind of shvisa, and you could take them. So Laman, who is he going according to? If it's according to Rabbanon, Pshita, Hashta, Cheftze, Hefker, the Leslu Bailim, Ein Kohen Shvisa, anything that's Hefker, that doesn't have any owner, we're saying doesn't get Shvisa, Cheftze Nachri, the Islu Bailim Iboy, Cheftze Nachri that do have owners, do I need to tell you? Right? Right? Meaning, if something that's Hefker, which doesn't belong to a guy, right? It's meaning it potentially could be owned by a yid, still doesn't get a techum. So something that's owned by a guy who clearly doesn't have Shabbos, avada his thing is not going to have any sort of techum. So the question is it going according to Rabbi Nuri? Kamashmalan Eimer Dam Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri Kain and Shvisa. Where did Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri say that something hefker only gets 2,000 amas from where it was? Animili cheftzei hefker the less lubayim. That's only by something that's hefker that doesn't have ownership. But if something has ownership, loy, right? Those will not get a.
But see, Yaakov,
yeah.
The idea that Chefze Hefker are kind of shvitza, don't we always say that Hefker really is something that everyone has some type of schus in and some level of schus in it? So what does that mean? It's kind of shvitza. How does it? Hefker is not something that's not connected to the world. It's not its own person.
Right. No, I hear.
So what does that mean?
I hear. You mean what's Pshan Yochanan ben Nuri?
Right.
That's what you're saying. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have it clear because how can you say that it's ownerless?
It's not in a vacuum. Right. It's not in a vacuum.
Right.
A Hefker item is to the belt. It's not to by itself.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, 100%. So I don't know. I don't really have shot. Anyway, so that's
just reminding me. I've already for a few days. How are you going to start posketing about robots with artificial intelligence?
Right.
Is that
Hanami.
what is
What's
that?
Yeah, I don't know if they could have ownership, but
Uh-huh.
that'd be pretty good if you get a robot that has ownership. But okay, anyway, so Meisvei. Again, so we're saying Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, his chiddush is that Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri holds that a cheftzei nachri, even though hefker does get a techum, which we don't clearly understand why, but if it's owned by a guy, it's not going to have any sort of techum. All right, so Meisvei Shimon if a guy decides to borrow something from a guy on Yom Tov, or you lent the guy your kli on Erev Yom Tov, and he gave it back to you on Yom Tov, and also kalim and storage, right? Storage houses. Just I don't know exactly what. I don't think it means storage houses. Rashi says the kalim that you stored things inside them. That's what that means. Because storage house doesn't move, right? Kalim.
He says utensils placed in storage.
What?
Utensils placed in storage. That's the art scroll.
Yeah, but on the bottom they say that he's chaylik and Rashi, that pshat. Rashi seems to be mechalik between the two.
Rashi asom. Okay, I don't know. Maybe I'm not sure what Rashi says. What's that dalit in the Rashi? Peiros shasom oitzer. Okay, whatever this gesai, whatever it is, kalim that were.
You could have. Oh,
yeah.
You could have a monster warehouse like Amazon probably has in the Ford plant in River Rouge. It was a mile long, the plant. You could put something on a conveyor belt and it could travel.
Yeah, out of the techum. I hear. So right, okay. They're in the techum. So all these things get 2,000 amas. And if a nachri brings fruit from out of the techum, you're not allowed to move it, which is the classic. We discussed this again. You're getting an Amazon delivery on Yom Tiv, so it's coming out of the techum, or the newspapers and all that. So if it was a guy, so it's coming from outside of the techum. So yeah, if you say Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri holds that cheftzei nachri are kana shvisa, so that's why we're saying that these things have techum issue. Hamani Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. So then this Tana is Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. Aliyam because of Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri cheftzei nachri ain't kind of shvisa. But if you say that the cheftzem of the guy are not kind of shvisa, hamani lo Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri v'lo Rabbanan, then who's the Tana here? Because Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri was saying holds that you are allowed to. There is no techum, and it's the Rabbanan certainly hold that there's no techum. So who is it? So the Eilam Kasav Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri cheftzei nachri kind of shvisa. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri holds that a guy does get a guy's items do get 2,000 amas. For Shmuel, the Amakar Rabbanan, and Shmuel paskens like the Rabbanan. But according to Rabbanan, with the Rabbanan Pshita, according to Rabbanan, it's Pashit. Mao, the same Gezeira Bailam the Nachri Atu Bailam the Yisrael. No. So now you might have thought that we're going to make a Gezeira that maybe since if something's owned by a Yid, it gets 2,000 amas. So therefore, something that's owned by a guy also gets 2,000 amas, because you might confuse the two. Meaning, therefore, we're going to say anything that's owned by somebody gets the techum of that owner, even though by a guy it doesn't make any sense, because a guy doesn't have techum. Kamash Malon, that the price is teaching you know that we don't say this gezeira, and even if it's owned by a guy, it doesn't go. It doesn't have techum. Yeah. He disagrees. He says cheftzei nachri are kind of shvisa. Why? Gezeira bailam the nachri yotta bailam the Yisrael. We say a gezeira of the ownership of a nachri because of the ownership of Israel. So then the Gemara says the story. Let's just do a few more lines. Hanu dichri the asalim v'barachasa. The rams, right? Rashi says the rams that came from a place called Marvachta. I think that's how you pronounce it. Asharalu Rava lebnei mechuzah lemizvah minayon. Rava, they came on Yom Tiv. Rava allowed the bnei mechuzah to buy it from them, right? Even though it came from out of the techum. Amar le Ravina le Rava my daitach. The Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel cheftzei nachri ain't kind of shvisa. So why are you paskening like that? Because you're saying a guy doesn't have techum issues, right? For Shmuel Rabbi Yochanan halacha Rabbi Yochanan, we know the rule that Shmuel and Rabbi Yochanan is like the halacha is like Rabbi Yochanan. V'Amar Rav Chia bar Avin Amar Rabbi Yochanan. So we always know we pasken like Rabbi Yochanan, and then Rabbi Yochanan pasken that a guy's things do have techum. Right? So Rava changed his mind and he said, right? Meaning sell them to the people of Merchasa. Right? Meaning only the people that lived in that city can buy it. Because what we said, like according to Rabbi Gamliel, when something comes out of the techum and it's in a city, it gets the entire city. So only people that lived in Merchasa can buy it, not the Bnei Mechuzah. The Kul Merchasa do Kedalit Amas Dami. Yeah, okay. Baruch Hashem, we finished the Amud. Okay, everybody should have a good Shabbos, and they should have a Torah's Dika Shabbos, and a Tshuva Dika Shabbos, and whatever it is.
Amen. Matzi Shabbos 9 o'clock. Yeah.
9 o'clock, that's what they say. 9 o'clock, right? Okay.
If anyone's in the neighborhood and is able to pick something up from me to bring to the Rosh Hashiva's house, please reach out to me. Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Thank you.
Shabbos. Yeah. Somebody say something?
What?
Yeah.
You hear me?
I hear you. Not so great, but I hear you.
Okay, I don't know what. Okay. Good Shabbos. Good Shabbos.
Shabbos, good Shabbos.
Shabbos, everybody. With Amazon deliveries, we make a distinction that they're removing the Shabbos here, so they're not doing your feast anyway.
I'm only getting like every other word. I'm sorry.
How about now? Better?
Much better. Much better.
All right. Today with Amazon deliveries, could you make a distinction that back in the day, nothing used to move by Shkia. So it was kind of Shvisa by Bein Hashmashis. Today, however, all the Amazon deliveries are moving to Shkia. They're all driving. So how can they be kind of Shvisa if they're moving?
How do you know?
I've driven the 80 at that time.
That's true. But you're saying maybe it's not kind of Shvisa.
Yeah, I would say Al Piraiv, they're all moving at Shkia, no matter, what time Shkia is.
I hear. So you're saying it's not kind of Shvisa. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I hear. That's a good thing. Try and work it.
The moving thing isn't just about water because of its liquidity, right? It's a physical thing. If it's moving, it can't be kind of anything.
Right.
All right.
So Yaakov, can I tell you a good construction ma'aseh?
I'm going to try and look at it over Shabbos, Gershon, and see. Yeah.
All right.
So I had a worker today who told me that he's going to come and work tomorrow. So I said, you're not allowed to work tomorrow. I'm Jewish, and it's the Sabbath, so you can't come work. So he started laughing. He said, oh, I forgot the deal. So I said, good. So you're going to come on Sunday instead? So he said, no. He said, I do a lot of work for Jewish people. What happens is on Friday, they tell me that I'm not supposed to work, but really they want me to work. So I tell them that I'm not going to work. And then on Saturday, I come and work. And then on Sunday, they pretend to yell at me. And I tell them I forget.
Crazy. I mean, he's talking about from people?
I hope not. I don't know. I hope not. I told him, I said, I'm different. For me, you actually are not allowed to work for real. It's not a game.
What did he say back?
Yeah. He said he's not going to work. I guess I'll find out tomorrow.
All right, have a good Shabbos.